In the distant era, 80,000 years ago, entertainment technologies were non-existent. No Netflix, Instagram, or glowing screens to distract the mind. Only the dancing flames of a campfire broke through the gloom of the African continent, its crackling embers echoing through the night as human outlines were drawn on the rocky surfaces around. In this golden, fire-lit environment, something truly magical unfolded. Humanity's first artistic performance. There, under millions of stars that shine with an intensity our urban eyes have never known, a young Homo sapiens rises. His gestures are exaggerated, his voice echoes through the cave, his eyes glow, reflecting the orange flames that dance hypnotically. He isn't just recounting the day's hunt, he's performing. His hands sculpt shapes in the air, mimicking the flight of a spear, the roar of a predator, the desperate sprint across the savannah. And everyone else? They are glued to every word, every movement, every dramatic pause. Wide-eyed children, adults suspended between reality and fantasy, elders nodding in approval. The silence is broken only by the crackling of the flames and the collective breathing of a completely captivated audience. Doesn't that moment sound familiar? Aren't we seeing history's first influencer creating viral content for their ancestral audience? What truly emerged on those nights around the campfire? And how did it shape our modern obsession with likes, views, and social approval? The answer goes far beyond what you imagine, and it's etched not just in caves and archaeological sites, but in the very code of our social DNA. The birth of the first social algorithm. Between 400,000 and 300,000 years ago, something revolutionary happened in human evolution. It wasn't just the mastery of fire, it was the creation of humanity's first social space. Archaeologists like Richard Wrangham from Harvard University discovered that campfires weren't just sources of warmth and protection. They were magnetic centers of social interaction, true hubs of human connection that forever changed the course of our species. Imagine the scene. The sun sets, painting the African sky in shades of orange and red. The dangers of the savannah multiply in the darkness. Lions, hyenas, leopards emerge from the shadows in search of prey. It is at this critical moment that our ancestors gather around that sacred circle of light and warmth. For the first time in history, night was no longer the end of the social day. It was the beginning of something completely new. Fossils of Homo erectus found in Kesem Cave, Israel, reveal 400,000-year-old campfires surrounded by carefully organized tools, bones with cut marks that tell stories of shared meals, and evidence of intense social activity. But the most fascinating are the spatial patterns discovered by archaeologists. People organized themselves hierarchically around the fire. Some stayed closer, occupying privileged spots where the warmth was most intense and visibility was perfect. Others on the periphery, still connected, but clearly in secondary positions, just like today, when some get more engagement than others. The campfire created humanity's first social algorithm. Whoever had the best stories, the most captivating gestures, the most engaging voice, gained attention. And attention, even back then, meant social survival. It meant access to better mates, better resources, a better position in the tribal hierarchy. It was literally a matter of social life or death. Evidence found at sites like Terra Amata, France, shows that these early social campfires followed ritualized patterns. They weren't just random bonfires. They were carefully planned events with specific locations, determined times, and even social programming. Some archaeologists speculate that specializations already existed: storytellers, firekeepers, organizers of gatherings, the first system of specialized influences in history. The cognitive revolution, when the first viral spreads were born around 70,000 years ago, during the so-called cognitive revolution described by Yuval Noah Harari, something extraordinary began to happen in those fire circles. The art of complex narrative was born. These were no longer just factual accounts of where to find fruit or how to avoid predators. They were elaborate stories with multi-dimensional characters, psychological conflicts, surprising twists, and endings that left the audience in suspense until the next night. Archaeologists Christopher Henshelwood and Curtis Marion found revolutionary evidence in South Africa. Our ancestors not only created pigments and body ornaments, but developed complex systems of symbolic communication. Perforated shells from 100,000 years ago, red and yellow pigments applied in specific patterns, abstract engravings on stones, all sophisticated tools for social performance. Picture this. A young hunter stands by the campfire, but this time he's not just any hunter. He is Kahu, known in 3 neighboring tribes for his epic stories. He doesn't just say he killed a mammoth, he constructs a cinematic narrative. His arms don't just mimic the swing of a spear, they transform into the spear itself, cutting through the air with theatrical precision. His voice doesn't just imitate the animal's roar, it becomes the mammoth, alternating between conspiratorial whispers and roars that make children cling to their parents. His eyes don't just capture every gaze from the audience, they make strategic eye contact, creating individual connections even in a collective performance. He modulates his tone to build suspense, takes dramatic pauses that seem to last eternities, uses the fire to create visual effects with his shadows, transforming his silhouette into different animals and mystical shapes. And the tribe? Completely mesmerized. 30-40 people of different ages, all suspended between reality and fantasy, living every second of the hunt as if they were there. Anthropologists like Polly Wiesner from the University of Utah have studied modern hunter-gatherer societies in the Kalahari and discovered fascinating data. 81% of nocturnal conversations around the campfire are social narratives, stories about people, relationships, conflicts, adventures, and dramatic events. During the day, only 34% of conversations follow this pattern. The campfire literally programmed our brains to consume and create social entertainment. It created the first neurological algorithms that still make us stop everything today when a good story begins. But there's more. Analyses of mitochondrial DNA suggest that the human lineages that survived were precisely those that developed these superior narrative skills. The best storytellers not only secured better mates, they had greater reproductive success. Their social skills became evolutionary advantages, the neural code of the first influences. But why did some people become the virals of the Stone Age, while others remained in the audience? Modern neuroscience gives us fascinating clues about what was happening in those ancestral brains, and the discoveries are surprising. When a Paleolithic storyteller captured the tribe's attention, multiple neurological systems were activated simultaneously. Neuroscientist Paul Zak discovered that engaging narratives release oxytocin, the connection hormone, in both the narrator and the audience. But that wasn't all. They also released dopamine, pleasure and reward, serotonin, social well-being, and even adrenaline during moments of suspense. It was literally a collective chemical addiction. The best campfire influencers mastered techniques we now recognize as fundamental in digital marketing. Creation of authentic personas. They didn't just tell stories, they became characters. Archaeological evidence shows that some individuals were buried with specific objects that identified them as specialized storytellers in certain types of narratives. Deep emotional connections. They used universal experiences, fear, love, loss, triumph, to build emotional bridges with each audience member. Perfect timing. They knew when to pause to let suspense build, when to speed up to create excitement, when to build to a climax, and when to offer comic relief. Masterful body language. They used gestures, facial expressions, and body movement to amplify every word. Their bodies became instruments of total communication, a constant interactivity. They engaged the audience, asked rhetorical questions, created moments of collective participation, used primitive call and response. Transmedia storytelling. They combined oral narrative with visual art, cave paintings, music, primitive instruments, dance, and even aromas, burning specific plants to create atmospheres. Archaeological evidence at sites like Dolní Věstonice, Czech Republic, shows that certain individuals were buried with more ceremonial objects, suggesting they held high social status, equivalent to leaders or shamans. Often, these individuals had physical characteristics that indicated they were specialized communicators. Developed jaws for vocal projection, expressive arms with flexible joints, even possible physical disabilities that forced them to compensate with exceptional narrative abilities. Natural selection favored Paleolithic entertainers, and this evolutionary pressure is still active today. People with superior social skills continue to have reproductive, professional, and social advantages. The audience as co-creator, the first collaborative content. But here's the most fascinating plot twist. The audience was just as important as the performer. The tribe wasn't just passive consumers, it was an active co-creator of the content. Studies by anthropologist Robin Dunbar revealed that hunter-gatherer groups rarely exceeded 150 people, the famous Dunbar's number that defines our cognitive limit for meaningful social relationships. This means that every campfire performance was intimate, personalized, adapted for familiar faces, and intertwined personal stories. Imagine the social pressure. You weren't just entertaining anonymous strangers on the internet. You were face-to-face with people who knew your entire life, your successes and failures, your deepest fears and dreams. Every story had to be authentic, relevant, connected to the group's collective experience. A blatant lie or an obvious exaggeration would be immediately detected. The Paleolithic audience had superpowers that we've lost in the digital age. Immediate and nuanced feedback. Micro-specific facial expressions, subtle body language, contextual interruptions, laughter, sighs, collective body tension. Real social consequences. A bad story could affect your social status for weeks or months. An offensive story could result in ostracism. A brilliant story could guarantee the best spot on the next hunt. Active collective memory. Your performances were etched in tribal memory and referenced in future conversations. It was like having a permanent record, but based on real human impressions. Shared social responsibility. What you said directly impacted the group's cohesion, morale, and even survival. Your words had real weight in the real world. Creative participation. The audience contributed details, corrections, alternative versions, narrative extensions. It was real-time collaborative content. Excavations at Pinnacle Point, South Africa, show evidence of complex collective rituals 164,000 years ago. These weren't just individual performances, they were communal experiences where the entire tribe participated, creating a kind of ancestral, collaborative content that included simultaneous music, dance, storytelling, and visual art. Some campfires had specific programming: nights of hunting stories, nights of mystical narratives, nights of social conflict resolution, nights celebrating births or mourning deaths. It was like having different specialized channels on the same social platform. Stone Age viral content, what really worked. If you were a young Homo sapiens 40,000 years ago, trying to go viral around the tribal campfires, what strategies would work? Detailed analyses of cave paintings, archaeological evidence, and anthropological studies reveal surprising patterns about what captured ancestral attention. Content that went viral in the Stone Age, epic hunting stories with a narrative twist. But not just any hunt. Narratives that survived in rock art show impossible hunts, gigantic animals, extreme situations, and unexpected twists. Like today's extreme sports videos, but with real life or death at stake, the secret was in the storytelling, transforming a common hunt into a heroic journey with escalating obstacles and creative resolutions. Social drama and complex relationships. Paintings from Lascaux and Altamira include scenes that anthropologists interpret as romantic conflicts, rivalries between groups, political betrayals, and dramatic reconciliations. Paleolithic gossip was premium content because it involved real people everyone knew. It was like live reality TV. Mystical visions and transcendental experiences. Evidence of psychoactive plant use in rituals suggests that altered states of consciousness were highly valued content sources. Shamans who could travel to other worlds and return with specific visions had captive audiences. It was exclusive content no one else could create. Stories about children and family protection. Ceremonial burials show that narratives about family protection, parental sacrifice, and child rearing had deep and universal emotional impact. These were the baby videos of the time. Content that connected with primal parental instincts. Innovation and discovery narratives. Stories about the discovery of new techniques, tools, or locations were highly valued because they had immediate practical value. It was educational content disguised as entertainment. Aspirational content about status and achievements. Narratives about how to achieve leadership positions, attract desirable mates, or obtain valuable resources functioned like the lifestyle vlogs of the era. But there was a crucial difference. There was no delete or edit. Once you told a story around the campfire, it became part of the tribe's oral history forever. Lying or exaggerating too much could permanently destroy your credibility. You had to be genuinely extraordinary, not just appear extraordinary. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio discovered that our brains evolve specific mechanisms to detect authenticity in social narratives. Those early influencers who survived social selection were the ones who mastered the art of being genuinely extraordinary and of communicating that extraordinariness in a captivating way. The first social networks. How content traveled across continents. Here's something that will blow your mind. Some Paleolithic posts actually went viral, literally crossing continents and lasting tens of thousands of years. Archaeologists discovered that certain stories, artistic techniques and symbols spread over vast distances with surprising speed for the time. The Lion Man of Hohenstein-Städel, a 40,000-year-old sculpture found in Germany, has impressive artistic parallels in France, Spain, and even Siberia. Specific narrative themes appear in rock art, separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years. How was this possible without the internet? The answer lies in what anthropologists call tribal social networks, complex systems of cultural exchange that functioned as true information highways of the time. Nomadic groups met seasonally at specific locations, true Paleolithic festivals, where different tribes shared their best stories, techniques, and innovations. Imagine the scene. Representatives from 10 or 15 different tribes gathering around a mega campfire during seasonal migrations. It was like a prehistoric TED Talk, an ancestral Comic-Con, a primitive Coachella. The best narratives, the most useful innovations, the most powerful symbols were reposted by each tribe returning to their home region. Genetic evidence analyzed by researchers like Spencer Wells shows that these social exchange networks were so efficient that cultural innovation spread faster than population migrations. A good story could travel from Africa to Europe in a few generations, viral enough to change entire cultures without people needing to move. Archaeologist Clive Gamble discovered that identical tools appeared simultaneously in locations separated by thousands of miles, suggesting that how-to tutorials also went viral in these ancestral networks. It was like Paleolithic educational YouTube. Even more fascinating, some narratives adapted to different cultures while maintaining recognizable central elements. This is exactly what we see today, with memes that transform as they pass through different online communities but retain their viral essence. Sites like Göbekli Tepe, Turkey, show evidence that these tribal networking gatherings were so important that entire civilizations organized around them. Monumental structures were built specifically to host these cultural exchange events. Modern social DNA: why we are still addicted to approval. As you read these words, you're probably checking how many likes your last post received, or how many people viewed your story, or if anyone commented on that photo you posted yesterday. That impulse wasn't born with the smartphone. It's 80,000 years old and etched into the deepest code of our nervous system. Every time you create content hoping for approval, every time you feel anxious for online validation, every time you adapt your personality to perform better on social media, you are repeating behaviors that were imprinted deep into our DNA by countless nights around ancestral campfires. But the difference is brutal and fascinating. Our ancestors created real connections with real audiences about real experiences that impacted real survival. They didn't have digital filters, artificial algorithms, or invented metrics. They had only fire, voice, body, and the fundamental human need to be seen, heard, and remembered for their contributions to the community. Every performance was immediately tested in social reality. Every story needed to add real value to the group's life. Every gesture needed to be authentic because falsity was detected instantly by people who had known you since birth. Compare that to our current situation. We create online personas for audiences we don't know, sharing edited versions of lives that aren't always genuine, seeking validation from algorithms programmed to addict us to superficial interactions. Studies by neuroscientist Mauricio Delgado show that our brains still react to likes and comments exactly as they reacted to ancestral tribal approval, releasing the same hormones, activating the same reward circuits, creating the same patterns of dependence. The difference is that tribal approval had a clear evolutionary function. It ensured survival, reproductive partners, and real social status. Digital approval is often devoid of real consequences, but our brain still processes it as if it were a matter of social life or death. Perhaps the real insight isn't that we're addicted to social media, but that social media is addicted to us, exploiting with surgical precision instincts that have kept us alive and connected for hundreds of thousands of years. Reconnection, lessons from the campfire for the digital age. But what if we could apply the wisdom of ancestral campfires to create more authentic connections in the digital age? What if we could use technology to amplify our humanity instead of replacing it? The lessons from the first influencers are surprisingly relevant. Oh, authenticity as a competitive advantage. Our ancestors couldn't pretend to be someone they weren't. Today, authenticity has become rare and therefore valuable. Oh, narratives that add real value. Every ancestral story taught something useful for the group's survival. Content that genuinely improves people's lives is still what connects most. Oh, deep connections versus superficial reach. Better to have 150 genuine connections than 15,000 passive followers. Oh, social responsibility in narratives, recognizing that our words have a real impact on the real lives of real people. Oh, active participation versus passive consumption, creating spaces for true interaction and co-creation, not just one-way consumption. The next time you open TikTok, Instagram, or any social platform, remember, you're not just consuming entertainment. You're feeding the same ancestral hunger that made our ancestors tell stories under the stars, creating the first bonds that made us truly human. The question isn't whether or not we should use social media. The question is how we can use them in a way that honors our evolutionary heritage of genuine connection, meaningful storytelling, and authentic community. Because in the end, behind every screen, behind every algorithm, behind every digital metric, we are still the same human beings who gathered around the ancestral fire, seeking to be seen, understood, and remembered for the stories we choose to tell. If this time travel made you rethink what it means to be an influencer, or simply to be human, like the video and subscribe to the channel, because some stories deserve to be told around all campfires, whether real or digital. And who knows, maybe you'll be the next to create content that crosses not just the algorithm but also time.